Hi, Resul here. Welcome back to our research series on human-centric robotics. In this series, we are wandering through the uncharted, wild, steppe lands of robotics, where robots are designed to work alongside humans, with humans, and for humans. So in today's episode, we are asking an important question, and that question is, what do actually humans want from robots? So in our previous episode, we asked another important question about who are the humans in human-centric robotics. And the answer for that question was actually we separated into two groups, which were engineers and regular users.
You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. It started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that.
Before diving in, I would suggest you watch the previous episode. In that episode, we actually talked about who are the humans and who are we building the robots for. In this episode, we are actually following up that episode previously and asking a question of what are the human needs and can we categorize human needs? And asking a question of is feature a human need or is the benefit is human need? Well, let me break this down. What is a feature? Feature is the physical capability of a robot. For example, a robot is equipped with sensors or a bunch of algorithms that solves a problem, or a robot that can do a backflip. Those could be considered as features of the robot. What about the benefits? Well, we can't talk about the benefits from the robot perspective. We can only talk about the benefits from the human perspective. That's why human-centric robotics comes into place. Well, the benefits are positive satisfaction of human need. If we are talking about the benefits, then we should definitely talk about the costs. And costs are the complete opposite of a benefit. They are negative or unsatisfaction of a human need. As you remember, in our previous episode, we discussed that value is very important thing to be considered when designing algorithms and solutions in human-centric robotics. Well, now in this episode, let's define what is a value. Value is equal to benefits minus cost. Let's talk about the human needs and ask a question, can we categorize human needs? Well, in fact, yes, we can categorize human needs. Human needs can be categorized into three groups: functional needs, emotional needs, and societal needs. So what are they? Oh, mushrooms here. Yes, there was rain, therefore the mushrooms are grown up pretty quickly today. Functional needs are considered to be the primary needs, because if robot is not satisfying a functional need, no matter how many sensors features a robot has, it doesn't matter, because a robot is pretty much useless chunk of metal. Therefore, functional needs are primary needs. And the good thing about functional needs is that the indicators of functional needs are explicit, meaning that we can measure them, we can observe them, and analyze easily compared to the implicit indicators. Now, let's jump into the two other groups, which are emotional needs and societal needs. Yeah, I'm walking around the Vaucluse House. It's a beautiful place. Look at that. Yeah, so let's talk about the emotional needs of a human. Where pretty much emotional needs are mostly about control and transparency. We can give an example from 1950s. It's actually interesting, quirky story from that era. There was a company who has produced powder to bake a cake. It has great features as saying just add water and bake. But users were pretty much robbed of joy because it was too automated. There was no control from the user. Therefore, the prices, the purchases flopped. And what did the company do? They realized that and they introduced a functional need satisfaction. Basically, they removed the powdered egg part from their products. And then now to use their products, you have to crack an egg, pour the powder, and then add water as well, then bake. That small removal of egg powder from their products resulted in skyrocketing their purchases. Because we have talked about uh, functional needs, emotional needs, now let's talk about the societal needs. Well, I can give an example on human-centric robotics considering societal need. For example, if we're designing robots with masculine voice or more feminine voice or gender ambiguous voice, then we are actually trying to satisfy the societal need. For example, imagine a robot that has more feminine voice. That could be satisfaction of a societal need in healthcare. So here we go. In this episode, I want to talk about three groups of needs of a human: functional, emotional, and societal. Let me ask you another big question. Are we designing robots for engineers or are we designing robots for users? Why it matters, right? Everyone thinks that, yeah, we're designing it for users. Of course, we're humans. Well, is it? Take a maintenance, for example. Maintenance is a good thing for engineer. Why? Because engineer can solve a problem. Engineer can update a program. Engineer can add another feature. And then what happens there is that robot becomes a brand new robot for the engineer with maintenance. But what about the user perspective? Well, I would say that it will not be a brand new robot after going through the maintenance process. User doesn't care about which program, which version of the program has been changed, what kind of features has been added. The user cares about the problem and the functional, emotional, and societal needs satisfaction. And therefore, after the maintenance, the robot is the same robot for the user. Therefore, in human-centric robotics, we have to keep track of the history of the user history interaction with the robot. And final note is about discussing with you this problem and this gap between two main groups, engineers and users. Well, one solution I would suggest to have to deal with this problem is to have 3 points to be satisfied. First one is let's start with humans rather than going back to humans later. So we have to start with human needs. We have to start with what human wants and then go forward to design our algorithms. And then again, go back to human and then that continuous loop between human and robot design will be a human-centric robotic solution. And another point is a question, and that question is, does adding a new feature increase the value? Meaning that, does that additional feature increase benefits more than increasing the costs? For example, in the maintenance case, we can state that with maintenance, we add new features, we solve a problem from engineering view, but actually it ends up in costs for the user. So the value actually is not increased, but actually is dropped. Therefore, the maintenance is a great example to talk about those differences. Let's go this way, to the beach side. So this is Vaucluse Park, this region, and then let's go to the beach side. And then what's the third one? The third one is actually the balance. We want innovation. We want engineers to solve a problem, innovators to come up with innovative solutions. But from human-centric view, we should also consider humans in our design, in our algorithms. Not just thinking of humans as an obstacle in the environment, or thinking of humans as just to be avoided, to do planning, let's say. But think of humans as the source of information for algorithms. That's what human-centric robotics will bring, that perspective will bring. So this is Vaucluse House here. This region is a garden of the Vaucluse House. And now crossing the road, this will be a Vaucluse Park. And then there is a cute, nice beach there. So we will walk to that beach here. Now we will be looking from a human-centric view, and we will be talking about the value and using human and thinking of human as a source of information rather than just being an obstacle to be avoided for safety reasons, let's say. And obviously another thing about human-centric robotics is it's actually about personalization. Robot will look at people as individuals rather than just an obstacles. Now, let's say if we design an algorithm that tracks the history of an individual, then a robot can adapt to the particular individual. Well, the water is retreated a little bit because of that rain, but it's still a beautiful place. By the way, one thing I want to point out here is that I talked about the human needs, like functional needs, emotional needs, and societal needs. These three categories of human needs are mostly used in business context, but that doesn't mean that I'm just doing what business says. Sometimes a business exploits human needs, but not in our case. In our case, we are looking at business as to explore, because that's what human-centric robotics, the uncharted step lands of robotics, need. The exploration part is needed, which means that we are getting out of our box of engineering and exploring regions in social science, psychology, in business, and getting the benefits, getting the features, the outcomes, insights from those disciplines and integrating them together into our human-centric robotics. I believe that they have a great insights about human behavior. Therefore, in our design of human-centric robotics, we will be getting inspirations, getting insights, and getting outcomes of business as in terms of exploring. We'll be wandering the step lands of robotics, which I call as human-centric robotics. It is uncharted, it is wild, it is cold, big, but eventually it will have huge amount of benefits, huge amount of value to be put in, and it will open a new revolutionary door to solve problems. So that's it from this episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, leave down in the box below, and I will see you in the next video then. Bye for now.